I'm Gary, and we're going for a drive.
2020 Porsche 718 Spyder.
With launch control. $8,000! Come on, $8,000 again! And that's it, I gotta back off.
Horsepower and torque.
414 horsepower, 309 pound-feet of torque from a 4-liter naturally aspirated flat 6 engine.
So was that launch control only first and second?
Yes, it was.
And why is that?
Well, because I still want to keep my license. So here's the problem with this car. I'm just gonna flat out say it right away. The gearing sucks. Just straight up sucks and ruins the whole experience of this car.
Yeah, because it shifts at 8,000, which is naturally aspirated, which is awesome, except you can't use it. Second gear ends at 140 kilometers an hour.
Yes, so to prove my point throughout this entire review, I'm going to leave it in second gear and I'm gonna have no issues. The audio is not gonna be too loud because right now I'm cruising, going about 3,500 RPM.
Yeah, and even if you floor to that RPM, you're still not gonna have full power until you're very near the end.
Yeah, and I'm gonna rant more about the transmission in a second, but the exhaust also sucks below 4,000 RPM. So like, this makes no sound below 4,000.
But I mean, at the top end, it does sound pretty good.
Yes, but how many times can you get there legally?
Only in first gear.
Exactly, like it's crazy. So I'm going to send it into cliche corner, but for the first time ever, no downshift into cliche corner.
Because you can't really downshift at the first, going like 60.
Oh man, this handles really well. Okay, so everything I said about the transmission does ruin the experience, but the handling is impeccable. Yeah, it oversteers a little bit, but it's mostly understeer at first, and then you kind of power through, and then you get some oversteer.
Just like all Porsches, they're amazing. The driving position is amazing. The steering feel, the feeling of the shifter, the feeling of the pedals, it's all perfect.
And notice I didn't shift at all yet. Like, I'm literally not gonna shift out of second gear this entire review.
It's pretty much an automatic.
Yes, it really is.
This car would be better in PDK.
Yes, and apparently that is coming later this year. So I saw an article from an Australian magazine, and they had a chance to speak to Dr. Frank Stefan Walliser, who is the head of Porsche Motorsports.
And what did he say about this glorious gearing in the transmission?
Well, that's actually where he admitted the fact that it was an older transmission and it was technically not possible to have shorter gears, even though he would have liked to see shorter gears.
Yeah, well, I guess that sucks. Pretty much totally ruins it.
It really does.
For road driving. I'm sure on track it might be better.
I'm sure it would be better, so let's cut to the clip of the track. All right, driving the 718 Boxster Spyder. I know it's not a Boxster, I'm gonna keep saying it, on the racetrack, and this thing is fantastic. Everything we said about it on the road, about the transmission, that still applies, but on the racetrack, doesn't really matter. It's actually really good. You basically just do this track in second gear. Now this is Mosport, this is Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and this is the driver development track, so it's a much shorter course, and this is basically a second gear course for this car. You ping it off that limiter, 8,000, sounds awesome, but I mean, you drive it on the road and it just, you can't get to that second gear at 8,000. I can't really look down, but I remember saying it's about 140 kilometers per hour. And you don't really have to shift into third. But when you do, it's a joy. So here we go. I don't really have to, but 8,000, shift. This transmission is fantastic on the racetrack. Heel toe is amazing. I know exactly what gear I'm in all the time. I haven't missed any shifts. Man, this is a fantastic track car. I'm not really sure if I would ever track a convertible version of this. I think I would prefer just the Cayman itself. So personally, because of the roof and everything, I actually really like the Cayman more. And look forward to our Cayman review, because we're also gonna do a Cayman GT4 review, because we're also driving on the track here today. Oh man, I don't even need auto blip, even though it has it. This car handles so well. It puts the power right down. The PSM or sport traction or traction doesn't get in the way. Rev match, heel toe, all day long, 8,000, woo! Okay, I really like this on the track. It has fully redeemed itself from the road review. Wow, if you got one of these for the track, good job.
See if I can get the third gear here. Just briefly. And back on the brakes, auto blip shift. I would say that the gearing sucks like I did in the on-road review, but for track and going fast, it's pretty friggin' sweet. But overall, you wouldn't want to track your Boxster 718 Spyder. You'd probably get a Cayman instead. So I still feel very similar about the Boxster 718 Spyder. Sorry, I keep saying Boxster. 718 Spyder. Yo, we are so lucky to have this job. Thank you all for watching and subscribing. You guys have made our lives the coolest with the best dream jobs ever just by watching and subscribing. We appreciate all of you so much. And all of that happened next week, so we actually don't know how we felt about that yet.
That's right. So I just want to sum up basically how you drive this car. It's a 6-speed, but it's really a 3-speed.
First, rip up to second at like 70 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
And then don't go any faster in second, and sometimes go in reverse.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the 3 gears, 1, 2, and R. And I'm actually getting really bored of second gear, so I'm gonna go a little slower and downshift into first, which I've never done mid-drive. And I gotta back off because there's speed limits.
Okay, that's one of the craziest things about this is that like, you're actually shifting into first while you're going like over 50 kilometers an hour because you have to. Thank God there's an auto blip feature so that like you know if you can actually get into that gear or not and where to land on the RPM.
Yeah, so I rev match that myself, but if I'm gonna hit the auto blip and go into first, perfect. That's the most enjoyable 2 seconds I'll ever have in this car.
And if you're worried about shifting and checking your speed while you're doing everything, even though we have the most perfect Porsche attack, on the right bubble, we can have the gear shift assist, which will pretty much turn red when it's time to shift in your peripheral vision, which is absolutely perfect for shift lights.
And how many times do you see that per day? First gear only.
Yeah. So if you like honest reviews like this and our 350 other past reviews, maybe consider subscribing.
All of those are honest too.
Yeah.
We just like those more. So back to the suspension. It actually has adaptive suspension and the whole front axle is from the GT3. So the suspension's really good. The back end is unique to the Spyder and the Cayman GT4 because this is basically a Cayman GT4 without a top.
But the cool thing about this is it has a fancy top like the 911 Speedster where you have to manually retract and put it on.
But that one was much more enjoyable to actually use. It functioned better. This one takes a really long time to figure out and to actually do it once you even figure it out.
The hardest part is the little latches over the Spyder logo. You need to click those to unlatch them and then twist them weird to latch them back up. And you have to do that before you lift up the whole back part, or when you're putting the top back on, you need to clip that on before you do the final lock. And the final lock needs to be done with the key in. There's just a whole lot of steps you need to do and it takes forever.
Yeah, it takes about a minute when you know what you're doing, which is a long time.
But it is cool. I get the whole making things manual, so it's like more special. I guess this is kind of built for people to take the top off once in the summer, leave it in their garage, and never put that back on until winter.
That's exactly what this is built for. Even though it shares basically everything with the Cayman GT4, which is a track car, but I really don't think you would track this if you actually owned it. Maybe once just to prove a point, but like realistically, even though this is technically a GT car, I wouldn't bother tracking this. And then we don't have any drive modes because this is a GT car. There's nothing on the steering wheel. The only thing we have is ESC off and ESC plus traction control off.
Which still makes it very controllable through a cliche corner, especially if you're letting the back out a bit.
Yeah, if you want the back end to step out a bit, you're definitely gonna want to turn off traction. There's no sport, there's no kind of middle mode, it's kind of off or on.
I guess the nice thing is, you're never gonna be like midway through a gear through a turn.
Yeah.
Because the gears are so long.
I can't even get to 8,000. Like, it's ridiculous.
You literally can't shift it ever.
And then we also have an exhaust button, which if you get to 8,000 sounds really good, but when you don't, below 4,000, like I said, doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, and even like the launch control pinging, it doesn't sound as crazy as like the 911s or any of the other GT cars did. But it is like pretty good sounding, but nothing like spectacular.
And you know this goes to 8,000, whereas the GT3 and GT3 RS goes to 9,000.
Okay, run me to 9,000, but do not say anything.
Let me just auto blip into second. Oh my God, yes. I love 9,000 RPM. So that's kind of my assessment of this car. This is an 8 out of 10 versus the 9 out of 10.
You're giving this an 8? out of 10?
I'm being nice. So that's enough me driving at 4,000 RPM. Just one more rip. Your turn.
Launch control.
8,000. Back off, back
Oh,
off.
I can't even get close red line in this, but that one shift was spectacular.
And that was a solid launch. This will do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.4 seconds, which I believe matches the previous GT4.
All right, let's get into the looks, because this does have that Speedster back, which I think is the coolest looking thing ever. So now the front end, it's got all real grills everywhere. It looks really cool. It looks very efficient.
Yeah, it's different than other GT cars, the actual mesh.
And then at the bottom, it does say Spyder. Spyder spelled with a Y because things are cooler when they're misspelled. Up there, we do have a frunk with a whole bunch of room. We should probably do the box test.
Box test. Shout out to all of our box test members. Thank you all on patreon.com/TheStraightPipes.
And welcome our new box test member, Tony, up front. And at the very back, happy 1 year anniversary, Ali.
Shout out to your partner who ordered that box for you.
So even though the box didn't fit in the back trunk, there's still actually a ton of room, and I'm very surprised.
Yeah, because the roof only gets stored in the most forward part, the rest of it's storage.
Okay, side view, pretty much just a normal Boxster.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of looks like a 911 Speedster-ish.
Yeah, only because of that bubble back, but besides that, nothing too special except this paint. It's kind of interesting. It'll pop in certain lights, but just a little bit. I don't really like it.
Yeah, I believe it's called Gentian Blue. I'm on board with not liking it as well.
I guess it's probably a good color if you're trying to hit 8,000 RPM in second gear.
But I really like these wheels because they're like GT style.
Yeah, I really like the look. It's almost like an updated modern look of the GT3 wheels. And what would be the Continental recommended tire?
The Extreme Contact Sport.
So now to the back end, we've got a cool diffuser at the bottom and nice dual exhaust.
And I don't like that diffuser. I think it looks pretty awkward.
You don't like the part in the middle, how it's cut out, right?
Exactly.
I like it. It just the more bigger it looks, the more efficient I think it is.
But at least the exhaust tips look pretty good.
Yeah, they look good, except for you could like see the bright muffler right behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, then taillights are pretty normal, just two solid lines, and then we got a spoiler that moves up and down. But when you look from the back and look from above, you see that bubble back Speedster style thing, and it looks fantastic.
Overall, I think this car looks pretty good.
Yes, 100% better than every other Boxster because of the back.
718, Yuri. It's not called a Boxster anymore.
Same.
Okay, so the funny thing about the 718 thing is they use that number to bring back heritage for the 4-cylinder, but this is a 6-cylinder, so it really doesn't make sense here.
Yeah, but like, you know, branding is branding.
No, you mean marketing be marketing.
They're both the same. All right, I'm gonna slow it down, get into first so I can actually use it. 3, 2, 1, and... Like, it pulls really hard.
Yeah, it's got just the right amount of power. I've got no issues with this actual engine and the power delivery of it. It's just the stupid gearing.
And it kind of sounds really good at the back, especially with no top. I would love to drive this on a big GT track. Maybe I already did love driving it.
You actually only drove it on a small GT track.
Ah, darn.
I know.
So now moving inside the 718 Spyder, some things I like. We've got the old school tack. I love having the speedo and the gear right there in the middle, and I love being able to see all my gauges again.
And it's really nice to see 8,000, even though you'll hit that once per day.
Because it is an older style Porsche, which shows because we do have the older style infotainment, which still does have Apple CarPlay, but everything else is pretty much a nightmare to use.
Yeah, no Android Auto, everything else kind of sucks.
But we've got hard buttons down here, which is really good. Nothing glossy, nothing weird like the new ones.
Love that. And then we also have the old style cup holders, which they've replaced with kind of like a single one on the new 911.
Yeah, these kind of suck. Put a Monster Energy drink in that for me.
All right, let's see what happens with a Monster Energy drink. It's gonna tip over.
All right, kind of sucks.
Yep. What about the visor test? Total fail.
Locked in place.
And the seats themselves are very comfortable. They're not too buckety, they're just buckety enough where you don't have to get like the carbon fiber buckets.
And then on the side, since it's a GT car, we do have door pulls instead of like normal handles.
Super lightweight.
And to get the car started and everything, we actually have to insert the key and turn it, which is cool, except for the fact that we need to put that in to move the top up and down every single time.
And this also doesn't have proximity key, so you have to unlock it with the key.
Yeah, it's like the weird conveniences that I'm missing that kind of suck, even though it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a GT car, hardcore, put your top up and down yourself. It's like, yeah, I kind of want those features like in the car.
If you want the hardcore GT car, you should probably just get the Cayman GT4.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so before we finish it off, let me get a little send through Cliche Corner in second.
No downshifts, please.
It does want to plow a little bit before it oversteers.
Exactly.
And you can stay in second the whole time. which is good, I think, but I guess it'll get kind of old on normal streets.
Yeah, but see what I mean? The initial thing that it wants to do is understeer, and then you kind of have to back off, let it kind of dive in, and then it'll oversteer with more throttle.
Yeah, a little throttle will push it right out, which is good because
it's safe.
It's kind of what you want it to do.
It's a mid-engine car, which we never mentioned, but it's not like a 911, which is rear engine.
So with all that stuff out of the way, let's get to the price.
It starts at $110,500
Canadian.
and this one is optioned out to $129,735.
That seems like a pretty good price for a GT car.
It really is, and I was genuinely excited to drive this because my expectations were very high. Maybe they were too high. I don't know what it is, but it's the transmission that just totally ruins the car for me because this is a really good car otherwise.
Yeah, it's just no fun to drive on normal roads like there. I shifted into third for no reason.
Exactly.
I was already at 5,000 RPM, now I'm down to 3.5. And like if I floor it,
there's nothing.
And I still won't have anything for another 5 seconds of flooring it. So like, honestly, I would just take a Miata over this, maybe 3 Miatas, 4 Miatas. I don't even know what it comes out to.
Or a base Boxster.
I've been wanting to drive a base Boxster for so long, but like, it's hard to get our hands on them because everyone keeps wanting to push us like the faster model.
Sorry, a 718, my bad.
I'm gonna call it Boxster forever.
I know, it's a Boxster.
Because that's what I like. I like the first gen with the runny egg headlights.
In yellow.
Yellow, black, whatever. But I feel like we had a lot more fun in the 718 GTSs and the Carrera Ts.
Yeah.
So I would suggest watching that playlist.
Click right here. I also really like the GT3 RS. Maybe click here.